Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Oceanic Pro League. I am, of course, Max Atlas Anderson. We're about to get in to the second semi-final. It is going to be absolutely gigantic, of course. The Direwolves taking on Legacy Esports, and both of these sides very, very close in the standings as we're going into this one. Second and third, it is bound to be incredibly close as we see the teams entering the studio now, ready to get this game underway. You can see there's Minkuel giving us a little bit of a wave, but everyone looking pretty serious heading into this one because they know everything is now on the line. Of course, heading over to Luna Park potentially after a victory here tonight. It is going to be a big deal because, of course, according to these brackets, whoever wins this match is going to be going against the Chiefs, who won on Monday against Avant-Garde in a 3-0 set that actually looked a little bit like it was heading towards a 3-1 because, my goodness, that last game was out of control. We're hoping for more of that action tonight. Hopefully it is going to be as close as that, and they're all fighting for a slot at, of course, Luna Park. It is going to be massive. August 8th, park opens at 11 a.m. Everyone can get there. Of course, there is a free viewing area, so if you're anywhere near Sydney, make sure you come down to Luna Park to check it out. It is going to be absolutely gigantic. And look, I just want to get into these matches. It's going to be so much fun, and I'm just going to throw it over right now to our casters, Pastry Time and Rusty.
Thank you very much, Atlas. Yes, my name is Pastry Time. Joining me is Zach Rusty Pie for semi-final number 2 as to see which team gets the honor of facing the Chiefs at Luna Park. And if our first semi-final on Monday, Rusty, was close, this one has to be even closer.
There's a lot of hype building behind this game. The semi-finals of the last split, the rematch coming with this game is going to be massive. Everyone can feel the tension building as we move forward towards these games.
And it's been two fairly different seasons, honestly, for these teams as well. Direwolves had a breakout split number 1, really destroying Legacy in that last semi-final, which was very surprising, and having such a good season right up until the finals where they lost to Chiefs. It's been almost the opposite. It's a resurgence for Legacy, it feels like, coming in and just picking themselves up after a mediocre season for them, given how high-performing the team is. And they've looked on fire all split long.
Definitely. Every coming week, Legacy has looked better and better, especially being able to get both wins against these Direwolves. They've looked really strong.
Yeah, with that, let's take a closer look at Legacy and see the players for this evening. Awesome players here. We're going to start in the top lane. It is, of course, the man himself, Minky Whale. His form has looked so good. When the team wins, it's often on this man's back.
Yeah, Minkuel steps it up when it comes to these big matches. We can remember back to when he was the huge dragon for his team. He does exactly what needs to be done for his team and goes big.
Yeah, and there's Carbon, their jungler. He, very important member for a different reason here in big best-of-5 matches. Carbon's the heart and soul of the team. He's always the one rallying behind them, making the shot calls as that captain. Very important member. Maybe his individual performance this split's not been what he wanted, but what he adds to the team on a whole lot different levels, it means a lot here. But Claire, he's the big story for this one. The sub-mid laner replacing Choo Choo's for this semi.
That's right. Big shoes to fill from Choo Choo's. But of course, Claire has still played 3 times this split, and all 3 games he has performed stellar. Perfect person to replace Choo Choo's, that mechanically sound player.
Yeah, he's looked great here, and we'll see if he can look any better as Tallywhack has had a rising season for me. He started it off very slow, very aggressive. He's continued the aggression, but his play's been refined much more this season.
Yeah, singing the tune of the entire Legacy side almost. You can put Tallywhacker in that column where he has just gotten better every single week until now. He's found pentakills towards the end of the split, has really stepped up.
And probably the man that's just been good all split long and only getting better. It's Flying Dew from the support role. Playmaker, strong laner, babysitter for Tallywhacker, whatever you need him to be, Flying Dew is there. Man's a vision god there as well. Absolutely insane support player.
The highest KDA of his team, the highest kill participation in his team. Flying Dew is the rock, and considering he's just replaced Ejim, who was arguably the best support player in OS, he's made his mark very well also.
And he's going to get a chance to maybe fight Ejim again, but Legacy have to battle through the Direwolves first to get to that spot against the Chiefs. So I agree, Flying Dew and all of Legacy have had a great season, and right now they look very scary. But let's take a look at the Direwolves and see a team that has had a lot of changes coming in, but we'll start with the top lane at Sharp. He's not in the mid lane though, he's of course in the top lane.
No, and very similar to Tally from Legacy, Sharp has improved every single week in this top lane role, something that by play style would have suited Sharp very well. He's now gotten used to that position and has really started to become the carry that his team did require.
Got a scary opponent in the top lane with Minky, but Sybil, new jungler there as well, with Soul Strikes leaving the team. Sybil's looked good, honestly. Kind of picked up right where Soul Strikes left off.
Yeah, Sybil's very good. He's a facilitator for the rest of the team. Direwolves more so that 2-threat comp with perfection. in the mid lane and King in the AD carry role, but Sybil allows that to happen. He's very good at getting them bridged to a stage where they're strong.
And speaking of, there's Perfection, big Cassidon player, but he's stepped it up in a lot of different ways. He's played been refined his champion pool. Not the best season so far, but he's such a good player.
He's had an average season, but he's always commanding bans. He's a big threat that does always need to be respected, which could be reflected by why his season hasn't been so strong.
Could be, but there's King, of course, their star AD carry player, and the man that gets all the momentum going for his team. Had a decent showing in the semi-final, really broke out this year, to be honest, but he needs to step it up here in a very tough matchup against Legacy. But King, if he goes off, he's King, man. And this, the newest addition to the team, Nada, has looked very nicely, kind of replacing a tough shoes there with Shuffle leaving the roster.
Yeah, Shuffle was very good with King because he complemented the aggression that King could put in place. But Nada, no slouch, very experienced and able to just slot right into this team, work with King on his just unbelievable amounts of aggression, and actually just suits the team really well.
Yeah, and I feel like it's funny because Chuffer and King would play together. They would flash together a lot. They would go for kills. They would go all in. Nada brings some of that to me, but he's almost like the guardian of King. And he kind of babysits him like, oh, please be okay. Everything will be safe. And as long as King has room, he'll make plays with it.
He's like the parent of the Dials or something almost, just looking after his kids as they try and make it through and carry the later stages of the game. Nada facilitates, much like Sybil to a degree, but it's the caretaker for almost exclusively King to get this aggressive monster to a stage where he can carry.
Yeah, if we maybe consider Sybil and Sharp, kind of facilitating maybe Perfection, it's not as like full-time job in the bottom lane to make sure King kind of grows up from a little wolf cub to a nice big dire wolf. So we'll see what happens here. King's certainly the one member we'll be looking for when we start things off, but both these teams, we've seen it before. They matched up fairly close this year, and honestly, Legacy just going to want revenge.
Yeah, exactly. Legacy, they're here to get revenge back from that last split where the Direwolves did take it away from them. There's a lot on the line in this game. It's not just the head-to-head matchup. It's going against the Chiefs. And that's the ultimate goal for most of these teams in the Oceanic Pro League, is to actually just get against this Chiefs side and take it to them.
Yeah, and look, it's lots of big hills to climb for both these teams. But of course, they've got the final coming up. It will be at Luna Park. That'll be an awesome event. So I hope to see a lot of you either online watching on the stream or there at the event live in person. If you can make it, please do. It'll be such a great time. But look, tough stuff here. We talked a little bit about Dials and where they're going, but let's talk about Legacy. We sort of said that they've had not an up and down split, but they started at a much lower point, I think, after the end of split one, losing, of course, in that semifinal.
Yeah, so they started fairly low. We'll say that much. They still started quite strong, but it wasn't to the level that we expected this Legacy roster to be towards the end of the last split, even coming into this one. But with every added week, they have improved more and more. Their teamwork has been phenomenal. And, I mean, they've got one big person to fill these shoes now to really step up where Choose was. Yeah,
and let's talk about Claire, the sub mid lane player. Just an awesome player here. We haven't seen very much from him in the OPL. He's been playing a little bit in the Challenger Series, but he has 3 out of 3 playing with Legacy. That is not bad for your sub-mid laner.
Not bad at all. And the fact that Choose has been doing a lot of work, you can see the fact that Claire has won all of his games being in this side. He does fill the shoes quite nicely. And even comparatively, Claire has done more damage in the first 10 minutes than what Choo Choo's could do.
Yeah,
so he has stepped up.
Important to note that he has not played against top 4 teams yet, so he will be tested here against a side like Dials. But let's talk about, on the other side, of course, Perfection, the man that's had such a good split number 1 in the top lane nonetheless, now moving back to the mid lane. He has 0 wins against current playoff teams, so he's been struggling a bit as well against that top opposition.
Yeah, that's right. 0-4 against the top 4 teams. He has a very weak KDA, only about 1.6 as well, but he's got a lot of unique champions. He's been the focal point of a lot of bans, and he is the player that you look to step up when it comes to these playoffs, because he is a phenomenal mechanical player, and he's very good at working around the mid-game skirmishes with the rest of his side. If he can get there completely unattested through that mid lane of Claire and the Perfection lane, then he can go off.
Yeah, and it's a great matchup. And getting through, safely is sort of the keyword there, because Claire is a laner that will constantly bully you if he feels he can.
Yeah, so you can't really ban Perfection out, but they will most likely target ban him here and there anyway to ensure he doesn't get onto his strongest champions and allows Claire to play to his strengths, which is to try and kill them in laning phase, because he loves to do that. He's got assassins in his pocket picks everywhere, Claire. He's got the mechanics to back it up. He used to be a Lee Sin mid player for reference. He does know how to win lane.
And we've seen a little bit of that from him in his recent champions. He's played Jace, which is a champion that you think really matches up with his style.
Definitely, because it provides the utility and versatility that plays to Claire's strengths, but has the siege and team-based styles that are always going to be there to bolster that strength.
And with that, let's take a look at both teams now head-to-head, because they are tough teams here. It's Understandable that you'd think it would be close here, given it's the second and third teams playing it. But of course, last time these two teams met, this is a rematch of the Split 1 semi-final. The Direwolves had a convincing 3-1 win.
Yeah, Direwolves 3-1. I believe they won all of the split games as well. So 5-1 from that split. Direwolves were looking commanding, but Legacy have brought it back. They've won both of their games in this second split, and now it's their time to try and get revenge back onto this Direwolves side, who knocked them out of this exact same semi-final last split.
Yeah, and it's like you said, Legacy have, like, both teams had roster changes, but it feels like Legacy have sort of found themselves much quicker. And to me, that has a lot to do with players like Minky, like Carbon, who just have so much experience, especially in these high-pressure situations.
Yeah, they've got a very experienced side to back them up. So versatility is something that they definitely have, and being able to adapt to mistakes or fix play style issues is something that does come with experience, because younger players struggle to change what they already have as their skill set. So definitely Legacy have rapidly improved this, but they've become the better side all in all, and we can see the results through the split. They have got the victories, but Direwolves are a team that you can never forget. They're always going to become massive around the final stages. The playoffs, they still perform quite well. We've seen that in the last split, and they can always bring it to this Legacy side.
And Legacy's experience, like you said, is important here, because consistency is a big thing in long series like best of fives, but the Direwolves, they've certainly snuck away games in playoff situations and in regular split games before, but it feels so dangerous. I would feel so scared to play a team like Direwolves, just because if I make mistakes, especially in the bottom lane, I'm getting punished. I'm getting punished so hard.
You are getting completely removed from the game, essentially. If King gets a lead, if Perfection gets a lead, both of these players, they like to play around their mid-game strengths as a team for the most part, but if they can get going in the slightest early, they will carry.
Well, we are going to get into Champ Select for game number 1 as we start off our best of 5. Rise actually the first ban for Direwolves, going to keep that away from Minky Whale, but a blue side Rise ban is interesting as Callista eats a ban here as well.
Yeah, the Rise band away from Minky Whale, though they are first pick, is to show that Sharp definitely doesn't want that champion. The Callista ban is just a necessity against all very strong AD-based mechanical style players.
Yep, like King.
Yep,
really wraps him up there as Alistar, the ban away from Flying Dew, but that's been a big Nada champion when we've seen him play. We sort of skimmed over the fact, but Nada's been a recent addition to this lineup, as well as Azir gets banned away, but from Perfection.
Yeah, so something that Claire doesn't want to give them as their first pick to maybe make the laning phase a bit easier for him if he's looking to find those kills. Also a very strong Perfection champion, one of his 2 most played this split out of the 7 unique champions that he has.
And I love this ban from Direwolves, taking Siva away from Tallywhacker, especially if you think your bottom lane has the edge, feels so crucial to me.
Yeah, Tallywhacker has seemingly been more of a facilitator for the rest of his team, and against what is a very high-impact Direwolves bottom lane of King and Nada, Siva is the perfect way to still be relevant, irrespective of how the laning phase goes. So now they've gotten rid of that, they can force Tallywhacker to have a lane where he does need to fight and might throw him under the bus a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, look, along with Corki, it's been Tallywhacker's best-looking AD carry, but the Rumble ban completes it. There are a ban thrown at Sharp, and with the Rise ban means he might struggle to find a champion here, but we've seen him diversify. He's certainly been learning his role as the split goes on, so what do the Wolves want for their first pick?
I really like that ban from Legacy because it does force Sharp onto what we're seeing now, a tank, and that puts him in a very awkward position against Minky Whale, who is such a good lane bully.
Yeah, and there's Maokai, of course, for Sharp, who new to the role. You have to think he's got a relatively small champion pool compared to Minky, who's got a massive one, but Legacy not messing around at all. Corki Rek'Sai, their first 2 picks.
Yeah, Tallywhacker's fallback champion, as mentioned, when the Sivir is no longer available, he's going to default to that Corki, and it may be a case of predictability here. Direwolves will be very aware that that was going to be the pick, and they may have something in store here. The Graves from King, even, if he wants to go full aggro and have a kill lane against the Corki, is entirely possible. They've got the front line from Sharp already on that Maokai, so the makings of a very big all-in style of team is going to be there. Without the Sivir, Graves is almost the next bet.
Yeah, and we mentioned it already, the way that Direwolves play is they sort of facilitate their 2 big carries. In a champion that Maokai, perfect at that sort of style of play as well. So what do the Direwolves want to take here? Sybil showing a couple of different junglers. Actually, a Kog'Maw's going to get locked in here as the Nautilus gets taken away as well. That is a really ambiguous pick from the Wolves.
Perfection has been playing a lot of Kog'Maw since the latest patch, keeping in mind we are on 5.13 right now, so all of Kog'Maw's itemization got an indirect buff. The Liandry's buff in particular allows a Haunting Guise on a Kog'Maw mid, which can then translate to an 80 AP item. It's a higher tier AP scaling item, and that is everything that Kog'Maw can want and more, with the Rylai's, with the Archangels all getting buffs. It's exactly what you want in a champion. and Perfection has been playing a lot of it.
Has the build changed a lot then for Kog'Maw? Because we used to see, I think, like tier into Ludens. Is it sort of different now given the changes around those items?
So it's still very similar. You want the Ludens, you want the Rylais, and you want to get the tier because you need the mana from some source. The tier is the cheapest form of having mana, and your goal is ultimately to not die. So you upgrade that, you get an effective health shield. It's just a very good itemization build. All they've really built on that with is the potential of a Liandry's.
Yeah, and like you said, it's just much easier to get all those items now as Legacy. Bucking Thresh there for Flying Dew, going to stick to Comfort for this first game here. And Minkuel straight back to the same. It's Hecarim once again.
Yeah, might be working around a pink pick comp here, Legacy. They've got that Thresh now. They can couple that with the Rek'Sai, very good at vision control, vision denial, and just all-around map control. Can work to their strengths. This would be an interesting.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, I kind of mentioned it, but ambiguous picks arguably there with the Nautilus. Kog'Maw can move them around if they want to. So might try to bait Legacy into something here. Claire, of course, is going to be given last pick by his team. Very common to see Red Side give the counter pick to their mid laner. But the Dials have to make some decisions here. Where do they want to put these lanes? This is really crazy. I'm going to let the Dials chill for about 15 more seconds.
Yeah, let's not say what they're doing until they lock it in, and then we can start playing the guessing game. But until then, most likely going to see a bit of change.
Yeah, it seems like Nautilus will be a support. That is the Jace lock-in. Have to assume that's a Perfection champion. And still we're going to take Gragas into the jungle. No, he swaps last minute. Wants the aggressive Nidalee.
I didn't think that they would put Kog'Maw into the AD role when they have no real support for that Kog'Maw. But in saying that, it does look like it's going to be because they've locked in the Jace and then they've got the Nidalee. So they're working around a lot of mid-game poke-oriented strengths. I think the Kog'Maw was actually a very clever bait. It does give them the team comp that they're looking for in the end. They've got a very good front line. They've got a lot of siege and a lot of poke now. Direwolf's comp is pretty strong.
Yeah, it is. And I think Legacy trying to think to themselves, what else do we take? We need another threat to maybe dive into these squishy and mobile people. Instead, they'll go back to Ezreal. It's been a Claire staple ever since you kind of re-entered the meta in mid lane. And Claire going to take that spot and be very comfy with the Runeglaive.
All of me just wishes it was Corki mid right now. I'm not going to lie to you. The Ezreal mid is still very strong in this patch. The big difference is the itemization has changed completely away from the Luden's Echo, more towards just the straight death cap or some other form of really high scaling AP damage. So it's definitely still relevant. Jace always has a very good time in laning phase, can bully the Ezreal around a bit until that Runeglaive is there. In saying that, Legacy's team comp is very much around mid-game strength. They've got the Ignite Hecarim, they've got Tallywhacker on the Corki, so there's Trinity Forces everywhere. The Ezreal gets stronger with every successive item, and then they've got Facilitators, they've got the Thresh to pick, they've got the Rek'Sai to pick again. So, I mean, all in all, their team comp is going to spike probably the same time as Direwolves.
And I think what I find most interesting is that King has the more late-game champion. Can still get Trinity Force, still has some relevance early on, but he's the one being given the scaling, and it's Perfection and I guess Sybil actually from the jungle that'll be given more of the early-game champions here.
Yeah, and then they've got the top laner of Sharp who's going to be playing more of the facilitator slash peel kind of role because someone's going to have to sit back with the Kog'Maw. It's going to be very difficult to keep the Kog'Maw alive given the team comp that Legacy are running.
Yeah, and with that, of course, these are the team comps, but get on Twitter and let us know who you think's going to win game number 1. Use the hashtag DWin for the Dials or LGC win for Legacy.
Yeah, that's right. We'll see who actually comes out in this game. We've seen both the team comps now completed, and coming into this game, I do think that they're going to hit power points around the exact same time. The question is, can Direwolves completely outscale this Legacy roster? They do have a lot of mid-game strength. They've got a Hecarim to boot for the late game, and they've got a lot of assassination onto the Kog'Maw. But if King can live, no one can outscale a Kog'Maw.
If I was Dials looking over that lineup, Minky's Hecarim would probably be the scariest looking thing here for me. But they picked the comps they clearly like. The Dials sort of mixing it up at Legacy. Pure comfort it feels like for game number 1. So who will come out on top? We'll have to find out as they're onto the Rift.
Yeah, we've found our way onto the Rift, and we're actually looking at a 5-point respect-based start. No invades to speak of just yet, which is exactly what you would expect being in the first game of a best-of-5 series. Everyone getting a feel. All of the pre-game prep has been put into action now, and there's a lot of set strategic plays on a macro level that are going to be put into effect.
And remember, it's a best-of-5, so these teams, plenty of time to figure each other out, but game 1, always very important in long series to determine momentum. And Legacy looks like a late invade, but it's actually just a bit of late vision going down. Want to see into that jungle entrance around the Raptors just to make sure They know where Dialves are going, but by the looks of things, Sybil just going to be starting over on the blue side of his jungle.
Yeah, just a bit of added vision there. We can actually see Minky Whale probably going to start a camp as well, and if a lane swap does come through, keeping in mind they've got the Cogmore, the laning phase is not that great for Direwolves, but then they've got the Nautilus who can be completely unlocked and roam around the map, a hook-style champion. Legacy probably going to look to predict this one and or stop it from happening. They haven't got vision yet, but they are right.
Yeah, I mean, they are going to guess correctly, I suppose. Tallywhacker Flying Dew will end up on the right side of the map, or the top side here, and get that 2v2, which we assume they won't given the matchups. But King, hanging back for a while, will eventually be spotted by a nice Langwood. Oh, no, it wears out just in time. Dials have done their homework, but unfortunately for them, they're just going to get unlucky here.
They are. They're going to be giving away the Krugs, or Nada's about to find himself 2 members.
He's going to go in. Riptide should be there. Yeah, does some decent damage, but it's 2v1. Doesn't really fancy it. He'll give the Krug experience away. Tallywhacker will get the last hit and kind of pings and says, yep, sorry, buddy, bad news.
This laning phase is not going to be all that great, though, for Legacy until they get that level 2. If they can get punished by Direwolves at all here, just given the lack of health that Tallywhacker does have, he's done well to not use his pot in a situation where Nada was pressuring him. But in saying that, if Direwolves can get themselves a level 2 safely, they're actually going to be okay. Yeah,
and Sybil and Sharp doing a bit of double jungling as well. Sybil will now go over to the right-hand side of his jungle and start clearing that away. And King actually hit level 2. Nada still level 1. Hook barely hits. Barely misses, sorry, there onto King. And even in a Cogmore lane, I think we expect King to play reasonably aggressively.
Yeah, you don't often think of Cogmore and aggression to a degree, especially not against a Corki, but it is King after all. He's the guy that we know for flashing aggressively, flashing forward, and just kind of surprising you. So he is playing exactly as we expect him to right now, and that is keeping Legacy near their turret.
Here's Perfection, though, in the mid lane, playing that Jace up against Claire's Ezreal. It is the smite, of course, for easy, so we expect that Runeglaive to come through later on in the mid stages, but Perfection actually has an exhaust here, which is a curious summoner spell choice.
Yeah, so exhaust still removes resistances. It does have an offensive use to it, of course, being able to deny any type of damage output, take away resistances in a clutch moment. Even having the exhaust, not necessarily the damage-based summoner, is going to be better than a smite.
Yeah.
There's no real scenario where just having a smite is going to provide any combat effectiveness unless you go for a chilling or challenging smite. It's still not comparable to an exhaust. So it's still a good decision here.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I mean, probably looking at Minky Whale and saying, yep, you're going to diverse. We're going to have a couple extra tools to deal with that. But here's the other interesting thing, is this 1v1 in the bottom lane.
Minky has blue as well.
Oh, he does as well.
Yeah, he got given blue buff. So this laning phase is fantastic for a Hecarim. Has the teleport available, so he's got that completely in his advantage. Sharp does not even have that. And you would imagine that Minky having the blue buff can actually become a helicopter in the bot lane and just pressure out Sharp.
And I like the Dials looking for that lane swap early on, because I think they wanted to get out of that specific matchup, the Minky Sharp 1v1.
Yeah, it does play into the mind of Sharp a bit, you would imagine. The last 2 times that we have actually seen Minky go against Sharp, he's kind of put him in the dumpster a little bit, and just made his life miserable.
It has been rough, but Sharp holding on nicely so far. The blue buff has worn off from Minky, so Sharp going to get a bit of extra breathing room, but all the wolves right now, with the exception of the mid lane, sort of playing back to the towers, knowing that pressure's coming. Nada eats a hook there. Tallywhacker's going to follow in, and Carbon's here as well. They're going to go after King. They get the knock-up. He's trying to save the summoners. He will save them. Takes a lot of damage as Flying Dew. Getting a hook back by Nada, but the Ignite is down. Nada getting low. King heal at the last second, and it's barely not enough to finish him off.
The red buff and the Ignite getting him so low, but the heal, even through that grievous wounds, managing to keep it there. Carbon
looking for a Prey Seeker snipe. King's likely going to have to back away from this tower, though, so Legacy, no kill, but they'll get plenty of advantages.
An interesting interaction, though. Carbon actually using that tunnel when he did not need to use it, because the Lantern was there. Did not have it available to actually follow up and find themselves a kill.
Oh, King now going to get dived 3v1. This is a rough place to be, and he flashes early. He's trying to make a little bit of space, but he will go down as Flying Dew collects first blood.
Oh, Tally taking some damage, but Flying Dew securing the first blood, ensuring that Tally did not get another turret shot in that trade, making sure his AD carry stays alive. And the end result is still going to be that first kill in favor of Legacy. King, over-aggressive in his positioning, wanted to stay there to ensure he got the farm that was pushed under his turret, but he pays for it with his life.
And now he's going to the bottom lane saying, Sharp, enjoy your lane, mate. I'm leaving the top lane. Don't like it very much there at all. So first blood drawn by Legacy as Sybil couldn't really get in there to help the ganks out because he started on the left-hand side of the map and he's got his tier hopping around trying to make pressure, but Carbon with a really smart first gank.
Yeah, Claire actually playing super aggressive here in the mid lane, but a first gank, they know that they're in a 1v1 position, so Perfection's actually quite happy even though he had the Nautilus there, so I'll say 1v1 lightly.
Yeah, Sybil in the area as well.
For a mid Ezreal against the Jace, and having not bought yet, he is playing very aggressive.
Yeah, Perfection does have a slight CS lead, so doing okay here, but they are really trying to line this gank up onto Claire. Ganking Ezreal usually not the easiest thing.
No, and I don't think there's even really a way where you can gank Claire unless he's the one to put the aggression towards Perfection. It is something that he's doing, but not to the degree where you're using an arcane shift forward.
Yeah, and look, Claire is an aggressive player, but even on Smite Ezreal, he will play a bit more reserved because he knows he can't afford to be that aggressive.
We say that about King. It's the same with Claire, of course, one of those players who will just find aggression out of nowhere and try and get kills just through mechanical outplays.
You can see they're picking on this bottom lane now as well. Nada's returned, but Carbon's back again. Flying Jew, double flash play. Their King now under attack as he's got no summoners left to burn. Carbon gets the knock up. Nada's trying to peel, but he can't do anything as Tally will get the next kill, and Nada barely gets out from that play.
The question is always going to be raised now of the Kog'Maw pick. They were looking for the lane swap, but it was nicely predicted by this Legacy side. In turn, they have now found themselves with 2 kills onto King. Finally picking one up for himself now, Tallywacker. This bot lane from Legacy is looking very scary. They're going to be spiking hard. At the moment, at the very least, the items are the same between Direwolves and Legacy, but he's probably going to buy a full Sheen, I would imagine.
Yeah, not anymore, I don't think. His Tally is going to make his way back to the fountain. Does have his Phage, going to build in towards that Trinity Force. Waiting on the Sheen, doesn't quite have it, but has the parts.
Yeah, so this bot lane, you can really see by 2 champions that want to get those Trinity Force flags, it's very obvious to see who's actually ahead. It's not a Trinity Force against a BF sword style of build, so relative money is irrelevant now. We know King is in a very bad spot. No summoner spells available. Tally has both. And the pressure from Carbon has been in the right place.
Yeah, we talked about the lane that Legacy might be worrying about. They've clearly been shoring up the bottom lane here with their early plays.
Definitely have been. Sybil's just not in the right place at the right time at all. He may need to change his focus, even where he's jungling, to be that other side of the map. Or he just may look for a trade himself where they can maybe find aggression onto the mid lane or onto the top lane and get Minky Whale to actually get a trade.
I mean, he's 10 CS up, so he's been doing a lot of farming as Sharp, and Minky going to battle in the top lane. Sharp a little too low, forced to flash out from under that. Get ignited, almost goes down, but he'll be safe for now, but he cannot afford those sorts of trades.
No, the CS is starting to favor this Hecarim as well, and what has mostly been a 1v1. Maokai having to rush those armor boots to ensure that he's not having a too rough of a time in laning phase. But this is the strength of the Hecarim again in this matchup. The fact that you don't get minion aggro just by using that Q is very good for trading against the champion who wants to be in the minions last hitting.
Yeah, and Sharp is struggling now. 15 CS or so behind as Minky returns. And yeah, King not having any fun as Tallywacker and Jew are freezing the bottom lane.
You know, if you have to last hit with your Voidoos, you're not having a very great time at the moment. King is on struggle street. The complete control of this bot lane is in favor of Legacy, and they need something soon before this continues to snowball too far.
So they've got 20 CS behind so far. Going to try and pick up the wave as it pushes in. Not a full freeze there for Legacy, so they're slow pushing it, but still denying plenty of CS away from Cog.
Yeah, definitely still getting what they want right now. The fact that the CS is that far apart at 9 minutes in this game is just speaking volumes. The saving grace, though, and something that I really like about this Direwolves team comp is that they have the Jason in Italy. Very good at bridging Kog'Maw to hitting that late game stage. That's the theory behind their team comp, is they want to get Kog'Maw to late game, and even if he falls behind, they've got champions to ensure.
Sybil's been spotted in the enemy jungle. Claire's going to find him with the Runeglaive. Knock-up's there, Perfection trying to come in to help, but Claire collects an easy kill for himself.
Flashing to ensure he did get the kill there, just in case the Q was juked. Flying Jew not actually within a 30-degree radius of where they were, but giving it a nice go.
Yeah, I was hoping for a real panic flash, I think, on that one. But instead, we're just going to sit in his bush and sweep it away, adding to the frustration of King and Nada's duel. And currently still behind 30 CS is King, as he's just trying to get last hits any way he can.
Definitely struggling. But it feels like everywhere except mid is struggling. Even the jungle right now, they've just picked up a kill. Minky.
Yeah, top lane, you can see Sharp starting to fall behind 20 CS and counting now as Minky, just with the longsword and some Merc trades, able to bully that Maokai in the top lane.
Yeah, exactly where he wants to be right now, Minky Whale. Fast tracking from the looks of it. That Trinity Force also. So they are looking to spike around mid-game. You're looking at the 20 to 25 minute mark spikes from these teams. A late start to the first Dragon considering lane swaps, but we know where the focus has been.
Yeah, it's just been bottom lane, exactly. Lots more ganking here, but Legacy will now move over, get themselves the first Dragon, and like you said, a bit late, but just very calm, very patient, very calculated play from Legacy early on.
Yeah, late but still appropriately timed given what has been happening prior to it going down. And I didn't realize until now, but they actually gave Claire the red buff prior to even finding Nidalee. He didn't get it through killing Nidalee. He was gifted the red buff. Carbon right now has either been playing to super selflessly, giving everyone else buffs, or he's just been, you know, losing his own buffs and Claire's been taking them from him.
Maybe.
I don't know which is which.
Probably put it on the former rather than the latter in that one, but Carbon certainly, he's fine. Got a Chilling Smite, got a Sidestorm before his jungle items completed. Now going to grab a Ruby Crystal, moving the Cinderhawk. Sharp. Fancy something in the top side. Minky, though, will not get speared. Sybil going to chase him down, but he ultis to safety. Dire will have to give up that gank.
Yeah, the spear not connecting. The Arcane Smash is very disorienting to actually know where to throw out the hook sometimes. Doesn't connect, but they still force the ultimate out of Minky Whale, which is surprising but still very important because it means the kill pressure in this top lane has been reduced.
I mean, Sybil has been power farming in this game, so finally showing top, getting an ultimate's not too bad, but Sightstone, Trailblazer, Tear of the Goddess, and still about 15 CS ahead of Carbon. Sybil is flying through his jungle.
Doesn't have the Rune Glaive yet though, so his damage is still reasonably low because he fast-tracked that tier by timing to ensure that it is stacked sooner rather than later. Has gone for the Sightstone again before it, so he's not looking for ganks just yet. Not to the effectiveness that maybe the Rek'Sai has, just because Rek'Sai has that innate crowd control in his kit.
Yeah, and how weird is it to realize that Sybil, of all junglers in this top 4, is actually playing a carry jungler in game number 1.
Yeah, it is a little bit surreal to consider that fact, but in saying that, he's farming quite well. The question mark is going to arise as we hit the mid-game stage where they're going to have to bridge this Cogmore of, can he carry?
Yeah, can he make a difference when it counts here? I guess we'll find out in a second, but Dial's up 1,500 gold. Sybil back in the top lane trying to bait Minky in, but Minky's already gotten out of that lane, so just give Sharp a bit more space, which is always nice. And Claire got his blue buff, got his Rune Glaive. Now I need to see Large Rod. He's been having a fun time in the mid lane.
He has been having a very good time in the mid lane. That one kill actually bridging the difference between both mid laners. In saying that, you look at the CS that Perfection has right now at 1350 in the game. 150 CS.
Yep, that's Perfection tier CS. That's what we expect from this sort of play here. He's got his Manamune, got his pickaxe. He is powering up nicely, but is it enough here? Tallywhacker goes back and under 14 minutes in, has his Trinity Force completed already.
That's a lot of money going to Tallywhacker right there. You compare that to King, who is almost there. He's about 760 gold away, so it's not too far behind, but given how, that's actually pretty far behind.
I mean, I'm actually impressed that he's done as well as he has, given what's happened. His Perfection gets a nice bit of poke down there onto Claire. Sybil's back in the top lane trying to force something, but Minky's ult is about to come back up, and Sybil, realizing this, just walks away.
Sharp also completely out of mana. There is no impact he could have on a gank, and realistically, at this stage, because they've foregone damage.
King finding a few too many, ultimate down as well. Oh, he flashes out, but Tallywhacker gonna go really hard in for the dive, takes a lantern to safety and gets himself a kill.
Another kill right now. The Legacy have 4 kills and 3 of them are on King. This is the ideal scenario for them right now to start scaling, start spiking, and work around vision control now, knowing the AD carry cannot have a relevance. Most likely going to be spending a lot of his time splitting from here on out, especially once this turret goes down. They'll probably try and freeze this. This unlocks Legacy to be in what is essentially a 4v5 situation in 2 lanes.
Yeah, 15 minutes in, Legacy with those 4 kills. Going to take a tower now as well, and to add into that dragon they got earlier as well. And you mentioned it's 3 kills there onto King. For me, the stat I like right now is Carbon. He's got those 4 assists. He's been involved in every single one of those kills. In fact, more than that. He's been the engineer for those 4 kills.
He has been doing a lot of work. Very smart decision making. Nada.
Yeah, caught out in the jungle there. Tallywhacker just going to get another kill for himself and take a red buff. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Heard a flash.
That was
Flying Jew.
Wow.
Trying to get onto King. Minky's looking to dive as well. King doesn't have really anywhere to go. He desperately wants CS, but he has to give up this tower.
It's like a James Blunt song right now. He's having a bad day.
He is. I mean, he's going to do what he can here with his ultimate on Cogmore, but level 8 to level 9 here for Tally. A second tower in the bottom lane goes down for Legacy. Dials will answer with the tower in the mid, but things are going from bad to worse.
I actually am a big fan of what just happened in terms of map movement from Legacy. They got the bottom turret. They didn't rotate to another lane and allow the freeze to happen completely. Instead, they worked around the red buff, and then they came straight back from that red buff to the bot lane turret. They pushed King away from his turret, and they took a second one for free. Everyone was assuming the Direwolves would then be able to freeze that. King would have been saying, just let me get the farm here. Was left alone, and then he loses another turret.
Yeah, I mean, King going to go back now. Might have enough gold for that Trinity Force. Does indeed. So he's actually not too bad off as Nana caught out again trying to ward. He gets flayed back there by Flying Jew. Tally swoops in for the damage, and it's Claire this time that takes the kill.
Claire getting halved by one combo there. Whoa.
Yeah, Sharp in trouble. Ignited again by Minky. We'll live through it once again, but Minky's pressure has been on point.
You can see, as I was saying though, the last whisper done from Jace, his damage is high. The spears, when they connect, they still definitely hurt. The
Perfection's doing insane damage there. Carbon takes about 30% of his health, but Legacy, just too much strength on this Corki. Rotate mid and take their third tower of the game.
That's right, they're starting to snowball their strengths. They're going from strength to strength. But as we are seeing, the defiance of this Direwolves side is starting to come through a bit here. Their damage needs to be respected at this stage in the game from Raw. Champion damage, but 6-0 in kills, 4K in the gold lead for Legacy. They're in a commanding position. All they're really missing is that completed Trinity Force on the Hecarim. Yeah,
and it's just been nice calculated aggression. There's another good bit of poke there from Jace. Keeps Legacy potentially apprehensive around the dragon, but probably not. Sharp on the top side, gonna get some free time as Sybil gets chopped on. Minky Whale, far too deep, gets taken out by Perfection. Now Nada goes in, but will go down. Sybil trying to kite away, but Tallywhacker does too much damage. Perfection getting the double, massive shock blast, gonna try and line it up a little bit more. King chasing for kills, gets one onto Jew, but now Sharp gonna pop his righteous gory. He's ported in, and Claire caught out of position, gonna get chased down here. King really wants it, gonna look for it, but Sybil gonna get chased down by Tally. Sybil will barely live, but King did get the double, and now Tallywhacker still going, but King will try and go in for the 1v1. Almost loses it as Perfection gets the ace, but the Direwolves much needed kills.
That's exactly what the Direwolves needed. They close the gap in gold. They get the fight that they're looking for. And this is just what we were discussing. The fact that the Nidalee is strong now, has that Rune Glaive completed. Perfection has that last whisper. We saw how much damage he was doing in that fight. He is the sole reason this fight even went well for the Direwolves. Minky Whale gets completely caught at the start of this fight. Nada goes down straight away, but it doesn't matter. Watch this. Shock blast damage from the Jace. 2 members on basically 0 health, gifting King kills on silver platters. The fact that they're able to clean this up, Claire stuck in a horrendous position, allows Direwolves to find themselves back in this game where they otherwise should not be.
And Sybil barely lives here as well. I like this as well. King's like, yeah, oh no.
Yeah, sudden regret almost takes over. But you do have to look at this Legacy side. All of the kills, they've still got an AP Ezreal. They've got a Corki that is massive. What they are missing, and what they probably should have waited for, is, as mentioned, the Trinity Force on the Hecarim.
Yeah, and he still doesn't have it. Mickey also didn't have his ulti when they started that fight. As Sharp, 3v1 in the top lane. King's here as well. Gonna make it 3v3 as Nada joins in as well. Sybil's here, gets the kill onto Flying Jew. Carbon gonna get dove, and Sharp takes him out. The Dials beat Legacy to a transition.
When you're trying to make a pick, you do not make it onto a Maokai who has a team nearby. That is the cardinal sin right there from this Legacy team. Twice in a row now, the kills are now 7-7. And as if what was looking to be a very one-sided start to a game has been completely tipped onto its head, and we're back to even.
Yeah, we've almost evened it right back up. About 1,000 gold between the two teams right now. Legacy,
make that
never mind. Yep. A tower goes down in top lane. Dials get their second, and the game is more or less all square as Minky still scrounging for the farm in the bottom lane. Chucks down a pink wall, but he's looking for that Trinity Force. Claire as well still needs a death cap. Has home guards actually enchanted on his boots already. But Perfection, who had Manamune last week for at 17 minutes, is on track to finish his Bloodthirster by about 22.
Yeah, that is going to be very early itemization considering how rough a start they were getting. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. At this stage, King shouldn't be where he is in this game.
Yeah, no,
he's got not be this close to catching up.
Blade of the Ruined King, but he's finished at Trinity Force. He's actually relatively similar.
Yeah.
To Tally is actually a 1v1 in the bottom side. Mickey missed his ulti. King, nice flash. gets himself the 1v1.
King outplaying right there, and this is something that I have mentioned twice now. What are you doing, Minky? You do not have the itemization to deal with King. Even if this lane was close, you're now gifting King kills on silver platters that he should otherwise not be getting because you are behind in strength. King has still got his farm. He has still found kills. Do not make that any worse than it already is.
Yeah, Claire had a blue elixir. Has a blue elixir still, by the way. So King is lucky to be alive after that ulti, but instead, Arika both going to get him almost a Blade of the Ruin King. And he's what? 30, 40 CS behind still. And like you said, caught up right back on itemization.
And it's also worth noting the gold difference between both of these teams, 300 gold, but there's still a standing out a turret remaining for Direwolves to take. Will be the next plan of attack. And yeah, look, 1,000 gold behind doesn't feel like it on the board.
No, I mean, Perfection's up, Sybil's up. That's where the Direwolves kind of leads coming, which evens that all up here. But no, it doesn't feel like that at all. Cogmore surprisingly strong with just a Trinity Force and only gets better. Legacy lost that dragon, started losing turrets and kills. They need to kind of take a deep breath and start playing like they were in the first 15 minutes.
Carbon was playing quite selflessly in the first 15 minutes. He was sacrificing a lot to ensure the rest of his team got ahead, but it hasn't really translated into a complete closeout of the game. And now we're seeing the impact that Sybil definitely is having on this map, from being able to just hard jungle and hard farm. Needlessly large rod, the tier completed Lucidity Boots and a Runeglaive. This guy, right now, is in this strength.
Yes, Sybil kicked Minky Bell out of his own jungle as well, and Direwolves get a tower in the bottom lane that's going to give them the gold lead for the first time in this game. We got 800 up, tower though in the top lane goes down, going to even it right back up, but the Direwolves, they are not done pushing.
They are not done. They've got all of their members except the Maokai, but he almost has his teleport up as well. They're just going.
Yeah, this tower's dead. W there from Perfection in cannon form, able to take out that tower. And I didn't notice it until I just saw it then. But the little cute Nidalee E Primal Surge Cogmore damage is actually kind of cool.
Yeah, it definitely is. They've got a lot of indirect protection for the Cogmore. They've got the Nidalee heal, they've got the Jace Gate, and then they've got the offensive utility of those as well. The move speed towards people, which is great for a Cogmore, definitely wants move speed, and then the heal giving the attack speed. So all in all, it's actually a decent team composition for a Cogmore. You do question how safe he feels, but we know it's King. He doesn't want to feel safe, he wants to be in the front line.
He does, wants to kill some people, and it's not quite Juggermore, but he'll probably make it look as close as he can as he eats. An ulti there from Kled. Red buff not stolen though. King will get it for himself. And Perfection has completed that Bloodthirster already. So with the Frozen Heart done for Sharp and an Aegis there for Nada, Direwolves only getting stronger.
Yeah, 3 completed items right now for this mid laner of the Direwolves. He's a monster of a man. 240 CS at 24 minutes is on point with the clock. You have a look at the Legacy mid laner in response. Claire, he's gotten through the laning phase quite well. Has that death cap completed. His damage is starting to scale, and he gets better with every respective item from here, but he's still an item behind.
Carbon in the top lane though, looking to gank Sharp, but Frozen Heart Righteous Glory, pretty hard to kill the old Maokai in the top lane, and Carbon's giving up pressure around Dragon.
Corky's also here. They're rotating, looking to maybe get the tower for their troubles. They know where all of the Direwolves are, so it's fairly easy for them to do so. At first you question again, they're putting way too much effort towards killing a Maokai, but the objective is the end result. They find themselves with a nice turret there.
Yeah, I like that play a lot from Legacy, but the poke train and in full force from the Direwolves just trying to force them off this tower. Dragon is back alive though, so you have to think they'll walk there, but we always talk about it, the tower trade for the Dragon trade, never too sure who that favors.
It's always the person who gets the tower unless the Dragon becomes a direct win condition or a winning team fight from there on out. So the standing money is always going to be more beneficial than what is a small buff until it becomes a big buff.
Yep, well, 2 Dragons now will be here, although Sybil not actually there to smite it. Not going to matter though, as they'll be able to take it away. Legacy looking for mid lane, don't find it though. Looks like we'll just have a reset as everybody goes back to spend their money.
Did well to keep the turret in the mid lane though, Legacy, considering how many members were there harassing that one down, trying to get that off the map. But Direwolves are in their strength right now when they're trying to siege. And that is exactly what they are very capable of doing right now. The Jace, the Nidalee, even the Cogmore being level 11, working towards that level 16 mark. His ultimate does do a lot of poke, even though he's an AD Cogmore.
Yeah, and I think Direwolves, you've seen them already just moving around, sieging turrets. Be looking to continue doing that here in this game, but Legacy have done a good job sort of just moving around them, trying to take turrets as well. So it's actually 5-4 up for Legacy and turrets, which is a nice little score, but like we've been saying for the last 5 to 10 minutes or so, gold very even between the two teams. It's going to be maybe one big fight or one mistake for this game to really be blown wide open at the 26-minute mark.
Definitely. The fact that both teams seem to scale quite well, but they're in different respective lanes as to how the scaling goes. Corki still scales if he's ahead, but you cannot compare that to King on Cogmore, because the Cogmore just scales infinitely better than anyone ever. Sibyl's about to... Oh, I was going to say. That would have been 3 in a row.
Yeah. Gets Carbon with 2, almost gets Tally with the 3rd. And again, just trying to preserve vision around Baron. Do have a pink ward there protecting. It's certainly an objective the teams have to think of, but Minky Whale, he's in his happy place right now. Split pushing on Mekarim.
Finally has the items he's looking for, but Sybil just playing very cheeky. He's dangerous at the moment. His spears are starting to hurt. That's 5 that have connected to Carbon.
Carbon's not really enjoying it, and here's the real threat. Perfection swoops in there on his Jace, dodges a hook there from Flying Dew and helps protect vision around it. Sharpens his teleport, Minky does as well, but teams right now just posturing around this very important objective.
They are looking around the Baron. I don't think either team is going to look to directly start that unless a convincing team fight comes out around that Baron area, but it most likely won't. You can see Direwolves, they put a lot more emphasis on that top lane now. They don't have Perfection here, so I don't think they'll look for a siege. It may be a bait for King, but it's a very big risk. Legacy knows Jace is mid.
They're actually just chilling. Yeah, they do know now, so they're going to go in onto Nada. Sybil, it's an Ezreal ulti, and Nada is pretty tanky, gets hooked up, and Claire going to dish out the damage as Carbon gets the kill. Sharp is here, but Minky is as well. Perfection, late to the party, needs to arrive. King flashes out from under the ulti from Hecarim, but Sharp, he's forced to flash out now as well. Sybil just going to keep running, but Perfection far too late to this encounter. We'll get the Q down, but it's not enough damage. King will die as Clay gets a double. Sybil going to be the next one, and Ezreal's doing disgusting damage.
This Ezreal's massive, and it's something that we just mentioned is why would you be in that top lane without Perfection? He is so much of your damage. He's pretty much the entirety of it when it comes to sieging or preventing Legacy from engaging onto you. An aggressive Baron decision, Perfection's there, but he should not be able to get it.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to maybe get a kill here with some poke, but needs to try and swoop in. Baron, though, double smite! Gets a kill onto Carbon, but Legacy do secure the Baron.
They get the Baron, and on the back of another big mistake here, a lot of decision-making errors have resulted in, first and foremost, Legacy getting a lead, secondly, Direwolves coming back into the game, and then themselves throwing themselves out of the game again, essentially. Legacy, only 3k, about 4k gold ahead, so it's not a sizable lead. It's still a respectable difference. Perfection is the entirety of Direwolves right now.
Yeah, and it feels like Perfection's love of farming might have finally cost him there.
That cost everyone right there, and I don't even think it was entirely on him. He needed to be mid lane to ensure that it was pushing before they rotated to top, but they just kept going. The fact that King showed himself, he wanted that farm. I think the farm actually killed King.
I mean, that's not uncommon, so not a bad theory. Is Sharp going to find Minky Whale and Carbon? Does Twisted Events to safety, but the damage isn't bad. Nice Arcane Smash, though, keeps him safe, and Legacy going to look to apply some pressure with this Baron buff.
A lot of effort has been going towards just killing a Maokai. There's not to a lot of success, to say the least, but they have found themselves now in a commanding position in terms of map control. You can see the mini-map, the ward placement from Legacy right now is very strong. They put themselves in a very good position.
It's about what turrets Legacy can get here as well. The Baron does come onto the tier 2, so Tallywhacker going to stand right in the front line on top of a lantern and just chunk out that turret. King on the bottom side getting himself some farm. Ulti there from Claire. Going to try and chunk out the Direwolves members, but Direwolves need to hold on to as many turrets as they can here.
They're connected with Perfection, but he has the overshield from that Bloodthirster, so there's not a whole lot of damage unless it hits King or Sybil, but even then, the Nidalee is a nice pick into the Ezreal as well because it provides you with that heal to kind of get back a lot of the poke. We saw how much damage Claire can output right now. He has that Zhonya's Hourglass, a bit of defensive utility. He's only getting stronger.
And, King backing in a curious place, very aggressive, but will get himself to safety and get a last Whisper. Yeah. He's now finished up. Sybil taking damage from Tally. He's also got his last Whisper, so mirrored build here for the AD carry players, pretty much, except for the boots too, but both doing substantial damage right now.
Worth recalling for the last Whisper. Even in plain sight, it's just such a big item buy that it's a necessity for this Pokemon to pick up before they even consider dealing with a Legacy Siege or a Legacy Poke. Direwolves are most likely going to be getting a Void Staff next on that Nidalee, I would hope, to ensure they still start ramping up in their damage, their siege potential, but they've yet to have an opportunity to really get Legacy under a turret. Legacy just engage before they can.
And Legacy now going to look for the engage on the King. They find the play. Massive damage from Claire. He almost gets a double by himself as Carbon gets one. In fact, he'll get both.
That's ridiculous.
Yes.
That Ezreal damage. Flying Dew hitting a flay onto both targets as Ezreal connects the ultimate. They pretty much instantly get down both targets. And this is, again, we mentioned the vision control that Legacy had on the minimap. It is starting to extend towards the bottom side of the map. The really aggressive positioning for no real reason. I guess the Dragon was up, baiting Direwolves into an awkward spot.
Yeah, smart movement there by Legacy. They'll break the base on the bottom side and get the inhibitor as well after that turret goes down. Couldn't do it with the Baron buff, as it turns out, but could do it with a couple nice picks.
One Lantern and 2 carries, both looking to take that one. Instead, Taliwaka gets a shock blast in the face for his troubles. Claire gets the Lantern to safety, but a nice inhibitor taken there. They should be able to translate this very easily to the Dragon. It'll be a second one if Legacy get, or a third if Direwolves can steal this away.
Dangerous. Legacy do enough damage though, they'll take it. Claire is just too much of a threat right now. Keep in mind, this is the nerfed Ringglaive Ezreal.
Yeah, I mean, it's only really nerfed away from the looted, so the itemization change here from Claire is very smart. He's got raw damage, most likely going to be a Void Staff himself at this stage, just to ensure that he maintains his strengths, because he is the big force of this team right now. You look at Taliwaka, 4-1 and 6, has been doing his job, but you look at Claire, 5-1 and 4, has been legitimately carrying this team through the mid-game weak point they found themselves in.
And we had a lot of questions about Claire. How is he going to play on the big stage in such an important match as the team sub here with Choo Choo absent? Turns out, at least in game number 1, looking good back on a comfort Ezreal pick that has been playing quite a bit of recently, but Perfection is not out of reach for damage. We've seen this on his mid-game carries before from in lane, like the Varus. He's just going full damage. I assume that's a Black Cleaver that's going to build out of that phase.
Yeah, that will be the Black Cleaver. He's looking for as much damage as he possibly can deal, augmenting King a little bit as well with that Black Cleaver, and it's very easy to hit the Shock Blast at the very least onto frontliners to ensure they go down quickly. It's going to almost become a pseudo protect the Cogmore comp from a team that still does a lot of raw carry potential in their damage. If everyone focuses the Cogmore, it allows Sybil and Perfection to put down Poke though, and then they have all-in functions in their kit. You're looking at a team that has so many spell rotations, it's ridiculous.
On the flip side though, when that doesn't happen, we'll see what damage Legacy can do with their comp.
Yeah, Legacy are trying to play the game through a lot of brute force, work around and engage with the Ezreal ultimate, with the Righteous Glory and the Flay combo from Flying Dew, and they are just brute force.
Yeah, this is a massive brute force. Tally going to take the Lantern out. Sharp does not pull the trigger on TP, so Dives will hold on to that cooldown for now. But a tower did go down in the mid lane. Legacy going to lose, Direwolves going to lose their tier 2 there. Legacy will claim their 7th turret of the game. Super minions in bottom lane, towers being pressured everywhere. Baron back up in a minute 15. Tough stuff here for Direwolves, who are about 5,000-6,000 gold behind.
Yeah, a lot of early game rotations have found Legacy in a comfortable position. Oh,
Claire gets good damage onto Sybil through 2 other champions. Not too bad there. King trying to force them out though, and Cogmore aggressively clearing the waves out. And Perfection rejoins. It's actually Trinity Force that he went for, which is just as aggressive as something like Black Cleaver.
Definitely aggressive, but I think I would have preferred a Black Cleaver here. Maybe even just gone for the Mercurials and had a QSS to get rid of some kind of engage. Get a bit of magic resistance for himself, also some relative strength against the Ezreal, which is an overbearing force in this side. But in saying that, he's gone for the aggressive decision, the Trinity Force, looking to deal as much damage himself to carry his team.
Yep, it's a carry build here from Perfection. You know he feels pressured to really pick his team up from this spot. He almost did it 20 minutes in
Trinity
with the base
Forces
play.
are directly related to pressure and how much I need to carry.
Yeah, and Perfection certainly feels it seems to be his thing in playoffs that when semifinals roll around, Perfection really steps up. And this Jace game, he's trying it as he does get the blue buff, but just barely.
He does get it though, so that is a big deal. The fact that Jace can now have that blue buff is very good at denying a lot of sieges, but the Baron is live now.
And Direwolves have to consider how on earth do we contest for this as Carbon dives straight in. 3-man knock up there. Taliwaka is going to follow in as well. Flying June, Mickey Well goes in for the wombo. Sybil's going to die. Perfection's already dead. Sharp's going to die in here as well. So that's just too much damage. Nana going to get chased down as Sharp does flash to safety. But that was 3 clean kills. And again, Claire, and that damage is King. Going to try and turn it around, but Claire's going to try and clean him up. Damage is too much here. King really does. Will get Minky, but Claire wants it as well. Oh, he's going to go in for the cleanup. Sharp going to try and tie him up. A nice Zhonya's will buy him some time. He does die, but he'll get the ace.
The arcane. Oh my god, that was close. He almost lived right there. Claire going massive. They could be able to end this game.
They're going to go straight for it. Not interested in the mid lane. Instead, will just get Tallywhacker's Trinity Force and smack down these turrets. The Direwolves fought back after a really disastrous early game, but seems like it's going to be all Legacy as Nada tries to get them off. Sybil actually assassinates Flying Jew. Tallywhacker might die here as well. He flashes out. Valkyrie's over. Will die, but Carbon just able to finish out game number 1.
Legacy find themselves 1 up now in this best of 5 series on the back of very smart, very aggressive early play on the back of Carbon and the rest of this bot lane of the Legacy side.
Yeah, and look, it was a tough Legacy there. You can see, don't look too pleased, honestly. I mean, they won the game. They had a good start to it, but it really felt like that game, given how it started, should have been a lot easier than that.
Keeping in mind it's only game 1 in this best of 5 series, there's a long way for them to go still. So only 1 game down, there's still 2 more victories left for them before they find themselves the
best
victors.
of 5s are long, but we are back here. We've got Spawn joining us for a bit of post-game analysis. How you doing, Spawn?
Yeah, fantastic. What a first game of this best of 5. Legacy really coming out swinging there, and their draft was honestly ingenious.
Yeah, we've seen this a lot from Legacy, just strong drafting from them, all split long.
Yeah, it certainly was. And you know what was even more impressive, that I also respect what Direwolves were trying to do. You know, if we can bring up the 5v5 draft, they banned out that Sivir and forced Tallywhacker onto an interactive bottom lane. We're talking about this all day. They're going to try and allow King to take it to him, and they forced him onto Corki.
They definitely picked that with the team comp too. They're having the Cogmore. They're trying to outscale Tallywhacker and his ability to carry. But, I mean, you look at that and you do have to think back to how they played the game, though, Legacy. They denied that from happening.
Yeah, it certainly did, and that's exactly what I want to talk about, you know, because Legacy, their game plan was let's help Tally them, because you know, if you have Sivir, you can play against the minion waves, but if you have a champion like Corki, you have to play against the champion, and they just repetitively ganked that lane.
Yeah, and Carbon was, 4 kills for Legacy, was involved in all 4 of them, had a great start. 3 of them were onto King, I believe, but I believe you have a replay here.
Yeah, exactly right. So we'll jump into the replay. It's the first gank into the top lane, and they just super commit hard to this. Nada's already been set back, so when we roll it out, Rusty, King just stuck around for some reason.
Yeah, he overcommitted. I guess it's the minion greed, which is something that King did at multiple levels in this game. They find themselves with the first blood, almost the second one there because Nada was super low and had to recall prior to that, but they're capitalizing on King.
Yeah, exactly right. And you know, what did Direwolves do? They're like, all right, we don't want the lane anymore. Let's go bot. And then Carbon just stalks them around the map.
Yeah, and for me, it was just a lot of where's your vision for the lane swap? Because you think you said it at the start of the game. Everyone's just hanging out, watching jungle entrances.
Yeah, exactly right. So, and we'll jump into the second replay because I like that you mentioned vision. You look at this, they've just come down to the bottom, no vision whatsoever.
And guess what it's time for?
Exactly.
Time to get King again.
Carbon's coming back. So when we roll this one out, you see no vision. Carbon jumps over the wall. There's only one ward. Really good play from Jew, and King's just going down.
Yeah, very easy for them to find these kills. As mentioned just before, the lack of vision from the Direwolves, and they just got to this lane, essentially. They find themselves in a nightmare of a scenario where all of Legacy just want to make sure King struggles to really push his scaling back, and he didn't really have an impact in that game.
Yeah, he certainly didn't, but they did have a bridge, and if there was one thing that Direwolves did well, it was perfection in the mid lane.
Yep.
The dude's an absolute monster.
And it was nice to see him not just trying to carry, because he always tries to carry, but on a mid-game relevant champion, making it, trying to make it count when it mattered, when he had the items.
Well, he was ahead by the clock, basically, from about the 10-minute mark in terms of his farm. Ultimately, almost looked like it was the downfall, though, of this Direwolf side, both members being out of position, looking for farm at different times of the game. But he did a very good job. They evened the scoreline up. The gold lead was evened as well on the back of Jace just trying to bridge the Cogmore through.
Yeah, and I like that you mention it, because we do have the replay of the one team fight that the Direwolves really took handedly. And what's important to see here is that this is a weakness of Minky Whale. He likes to engage, but also the strength of perfection because he destroys him.
Yep, goodbye.
Yeah, I guess at this point in time, though, you do have to keep in mind Minky was down in items, so just aggressive decisions. And it's something that Legacy continued to do for the rest of the game was just find engage options whenever they could and not hesitate. They do pay for it in this case, though. And something that the Direwolves team comp is very good at is just finding picks, making kills from these picks. Sybil being very smart here and actually managing to live.
Yeah, he just kites around forever. Nearly is so damn annoying. But, this is exactly what we expected out of these two teams. Direwolves, they've got their duo carries. They need to get ahead. They need to farm up. But Legacy are, the embodiment of a team sports game. Every player has their role. They all play it really well. And if they continue to fulfill the role they need to, especially their bottom lane, Jew and Tallywacker, who are so important, it's going to be a great set for for Legacy.
I mean, for me, that was almost just the Carbon Flying Jew show for the first 15 minutes of that game. We talk about big carries for Dials, but for me, like you said, that teamwork and just the macro level and strategic play from Legacy really won them that game.
I feel like the biggest factor that it did look like the Flange and Carbon show, though, is that because they're both trying to bridge the rest of their carries to find their strengths, whereas you look at the Sybil and maybe even Sharp in the top lane to a degree, they just couldn't find the same strengths that you have a look to Carbon and Flange that they managed to successfully get.
Yeah, I definitely agree, but I guess the big question going into the next game, what do they do? Because Direwolves, how do they get the farm onto the two people they want to if Legacy are going to play that way?
I feel like Sybil... his Nidalee was fine, but play a ganking jungler. Go back to Zac if you have to, but just get in the lanes early.
Yeah, I mean, he had a very strong Zac. He's very good at getting the rest of his teams ahead. I think if they're looking to put a lane swap into effect, that they try and actually get vision to ensure they get the lane swap.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that it's more about, just get him back on a mid-game carry in the bottom lane, get King on something like a Tristana, something like the Corki himself, so he can make the plays.
Well, we'll have to see what happens. We're going to throw to a quick 3.5-minute break, but when we return, it'll be game number 2 between Direwolves and Legacy.